All right, good morning, everyone. We are back with week 2 of the weekly workshop with Arc Analytics here in the Arc Academy for Qlik. I'm with Austin, and today we're going to talk about the foundations of Qliks. So understanding these components, kind of what makes up Qlik Cloud, how these different things talk to each other, and kind of how they're organized so that you can best understand how you want to position your environment, and then some tips and tricks for best practices. So welcome back. If there were any questions from week 1, we'd love to hear them. Even if they're delayed, put them in the course module, put them in the comments, put them anywhere. We can always come back to them later on, and it's good to kind of get a feel for what was covered and what hasn't, what we kind of missed and what we can improve on. We're going to share our environment and just go through them so that we can kind of get a better grasp, kind of like a show and tell. So we're going to kind of explain what the item is, how the component works with Qlik, and how it should work with the user, and then expand upon that and do a little demo. So jumping right into it, you got spaces.
So spaces, yeah. So in Qlik Cloud, basically you want to be able to organize all of your assets, right? Whether it's apps or dashboards, whether it's specific charts that you want to be monitoring, data connections, data files, all such things as that that you are tracking or are working on, or that you've created for your business users at whatever stage that you have it in. You can organize these into spaces, which their corollary to on-prem is a stream, right? So just basically like a root folder, essentially. While in cloud, however, you are able to with data files, nest things into a file structure for better organization. And that's kind of the idea, is that you can encapsulate an entire project or multiple projects that use related data connections or related data files into a single space. And for collaboration with other developers, the best way to do it is using a shared space, right? Where you can share apps and data sources with other developers and iterate on them or do testing on them. And then a managed space comes into play when you're ready to push live to business users, to end users. And that has a little more structure to it. It's not quite as open and configurable for specific users, right? It's more locked down for a production type environment with stricter permissions. And then you actually have data spaces, which allows you to it's sort of a bit of a bridge environment for the data integration side, where you can have your data assets that are involved with data integration, moving data replication, having data pipelines and data projects that allows you to create change data capture workflows, things like that. That all can be tied into sort of a special space called a data space, which provides a particular set of data governance features as well. And then, of course, while all of this, shared spaces, managed spaces, and data spaces come into play when you are building with other people or for other people, you also get a personal space, right? And this is basically a place that a space that only you have access to, and that you can build in by and for yourself using your own data connections, using charts and visualizations that only you can see. And then you can, basically the workflow, the movement is that you would create something in a personal space or a shared space that you want to start, and then you can publish or move apps around. So if I created an app in a personal space using data connections and such, I can then publish that app or move that app to a shared space. I can then move or duplicate my data connections to also work in that space so that they're associated. And then everyone in that shared space can work on it, right? And then once we're done with the app and we want to publish it to go live, I would just publish or move that app and whatever assets are needed to the managed space. So it's actually a very simple sort of workflow that allows you to iterate and to create with the right amount of visibility or collaboration. So in Qlik Cloud, you have this page, you have this view called catalog, which is more or less the same idea, the same concept as the hub in the on-prem version of Qlik and Qlik Sense. It's essentially your one-stop shop, if you will, for everything, all of your assets in Qlik Cloud that you have access to in your tenant. And so this is, I mean, literally everything. So if you look at the top of my screen here, I'm in the catalog. I'm looking at a specific space called transportation, and I can basically filter down to any type of thing that I have access to, including table recipes, charts, applications, specific data sets, even AI assistants, right? I can see all of that filtered and cataloged in here. I can see it for one specific space, or I can see it for all spaces that I have access to. I get a few metrics down here for each item, including how many people have looked at it within my organization in the last month, as well as the number of things that are linked to it, right? Because an application can use a data set, well, then that's linked, right? So concepts like that, I see some quick metrics there. And from this view, I can also right-click on any of these assets, and depending on the type of asset that it is, I see some extra context, some extra menu items I can utilize. So for data sets, for example, I can see the lineage or the impact of that data set, and I can also jump directly into the details for it, all from right in the catalog. And then for applications, I get even more options here where I can reload or look at the reload schedule for an app. I can move it or duplicate the app. I can also just open it in a new tab with or without data, export it with or without data. I can also, from here, look at the impact analysis or the lineage. So I'm getting all of these functions and features that I can access all right from the catalog. So again, the catalog is where everything kind of happens. It's the headquarters, if you will. And so to kind of iterate on the spaces there or reiterate the importance of being able to filter down to a certain space, I can do that from up here where I can see my personal space, which is always at the top, as well as shared spaces, which are those collaborative sort of spaces, managed spaces, which are kind of the live production type stuff, and then data spaces, which is where I can coordinate any data that is used in the data integration set of features. And so, for example, if I click on the transportation shared space that I have here, I can see, as we already know, all of the assets therein. So I have my data flows, I have some QVD data files, I have a table recipe object in here. I also have just a good old-fashioned Qlik Sense application, right? With all my dashboards and such. So what's nice is from here, I can actually go straight into my space settings. I see a few options here. I can click on details. Now I'm looking at the details just for this space, the shared space. So I can see some basic info about who owned or created it, when it was last modified, the type. If there's a description, I can add it there. I can also choose notification settings, and I can set the defaults for uh, when alerts are sent out and how they're sent out for certain things, right? So for applications, Qlik applications in this space, I can make it so that I get a little notification up at the top within the browser there, or it goes straight to my phone if I have the Qlik app, or it gets sent in an email directly, or in an email digest where a couple notifications get set, in one email at the end of the day or something, right? Rather than every single time it happens. So I can see that for all of my different asset types, apps, scripts, data flows, notes, etc. I can also see who has access to this space. right? So I can see myself and a Qlik test user that I've set up, but I can add anyone in my in my organization that has access to Qlik. I can also make it so that anyone at my organization has access to this space. And for specific groups or people, I can set the permissions, including being able to just view things within the space. I can make it so that folks can edit things in the space if they're the owner, or if they're not the owner. I can also make it so that people become an admin or a manager of the space. And then I can also make it so that even if I don't need you to view the end products, view the dashboard, I still want you to have access to the underlying data, right? You can make that a setting as well in here. And after that, I can see the data files and the connections that are all bundled into this space, right? So I can see sort of a file system, if you will, where I can see all of my files that are in use, and I can upload new files from here if needed from a myriad number of file types. I can also create new folders, so I can nest my files into a set of folders if needed, which I can access directly from my applications in whatever folder structure they're in. I can also move or change the ownership of these specific files. I can move them to other spaces or just delete them. And then in the connection spot here, these are any of my data connections, right? The two external files or sources, like databases, APIs, what have you, that I have set up in this space, right? And so I can create new connections from here as well. And any existing connections here, I can modify those or remove those, and see who owns and manages those from here.
Just to jump in here real quick, I wanted to highlight here that all of these things are brand new to Qlik Cloud. All of these settings, from the details to being able to see the notifications, the members, some of these things were previously exposed in the QMC, and you had to have a higher level of access to be able to see those items and be able to navigate and edit. But now it really pushes this to the user side, and this is more on the front end, as well as going back to that notification settings. Also, can you click right there real fast? Going back to the notification settings, this is something that's completely new to Qlik Cloud through and through. So this is a huge advantage that has a leg up over Qlik Sense and anything on-prem is, everything is being very proactive from the environment, pushing information to you. Even if it's just information about the environment, these are things that we would typically have to build in Qlik Sense and have scheduled or have automated or have reload jobs tracking the reload tasks and things like that. So this section right here is very powerful when used correctly. So I just wanted to jump in and mention that. All right, so moving into data connections. Now that we've talked about spaces, we talked about the catalog, I want to highlight the importance of data connections, how they fit into this hierarchy, and the importance of it as a component here in Qlik Cloud. So a data connection is really it's a link to anything external or internal here. So whether it's a database, whether it's your cloud storage provider, whether it's just individual Excel files that you upload into Qlik Cloud, it's important to kind of think about these data connections as, just like in Qlik Sense, it's like arms of an octopus that can kind of reach into all these sources and pull in information kind of into this one-stop shop so that you can do the blending on your own. You can make these data models and kind of configure them the way you need. And I've talked about some of the common types here, but I want to go ahead and just jump straight into Qlik Cloud and kind of give a little walkthrough of what it really looks like to make a data connection, or what it looks like to just, see it in action. So when you come to Qlik Cloud, you're immediately tasked with, the ability to open and navigate apps through the catalog, just like Austin showed us. But when you open an application here, this is in my personal space, and it's an application called testing. I have 3 different ways to add data to this app. And I can go to this data catalog, just like we talked about with Austin, and I can see the owner of this. I can see the owner of each data set, what each data set is, and then I can see the space that it's tied to. So this is really important when, as you're scaling with governance and all of these other things, you want to focus on keeping things organized. You want to try to avoid, if data is for a specific intended space, mount that data connection to that space or have those files organized in that space. It's only going to lead to more problems down the line, just like anything else. the organization. Your next option is more of this data manager entry. This is going to look a lot more familiar to that, but this really gives a good view here of all the different options you have out of the box. So right out of the box, I can see some of my previous data connections that I built on the side. I can toggle between the spaces that I want to pull from. And then I have the ability to upload these files directly into Qlik Cloud, directly to this space that this app is in, which is my personal space. And then to create a new data connection right here, these are just some of the previewed out of the box data connectors. This is not all of them by any means. And this is really, a lot of these are, you can connect these with variables and things like that. So a good example of that is the REST connector. The REST connector can be configured several different ways. You can do this dynamically in for loops. You can use variables. You can use all kinds of different things with different authentication methods. And this is a highly configurable data connection. So it's not a one size fits all. It's not a, oh, that data connection probably won't work for me, because it's a specific thing that your company uses. This is it's already kind of thought out. Each thing has its own flexibility kind of built in. So right out of the box, you have a ton at your fingertips, ready to jump into and get started. So next week, on week 3 of this weekly workshop, we're going to actually take you through the steps and process that it takes to take a file, upload it into Qlik, or we'll also probably make a data connection with you here and kind of go through those steps just to get the feel of things and actually start getting our hands on Qlik. But it's really important to take these first 2 weeks to get familiar with the environment, the resources, the components, how everything kind of works, kind of understand the car that you're getting into before you're putting it in drive. So we'll look forward to seeing you next week, and stay tuned.